and we are here to talk about portfolio management in Project Online. So quick agenda, I'm going to give you a quick overview of Marque360, introduce my colleague on the call, and then we're going to go through a little bit about what enterprise project portfolio management is, why you should use Project Online to do that. We're going to talk about business drivers, impact statements, prioritizations, what they are and how you can set those up. And then we're going to go through a full demo of what all those aspects look like in Project Online. And then any questions you guys have, please feel free to unmute and ask. We have a small audience today, so please be as interactive as possible. You're not bothering us. We would rather you get the most out of this as possible. All right, so a little bit about, actually, first let me introduce my colleague Scott on the call. He's going to give the technical demo today.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks, Scott. So a little bit about Marque360. We're a Microsoft Gold Partner for Project and Portfolio Management and Collaboration. We have locations all across the US, in Canada, Europe, and Australia. A lot of our colleagues and the actual founders of Marque360 either worked at Microsoft for a long time or have been part of the Microsoft ecosystem most of their careers. So we have a very good relationship with the Microsoft product team, the Microsoft sellers. So if you have any licensing questions, if there's upgrades, updates coming down any of the Microsoft products, we know those pretty quickly and can get you ready for all that coming along. We focus on digital transformation. So what that means is we like to use modern technology to take away any of your manual processes, forms. We create workflows for those, approval processes, and any work that you're doing in separate systems, we connect all those and give you this modern ecosystem with all of your work management needs, tasks, forms, anything you need to do to make your day-to-day a little easier. And we use Teams to make all the collaboration in one hub, and you can have your files, documents, all your communication in one place. And as a company, we like to really focus on your success. So we don't just implement a system and just walk away. We have an in-house support team because we want you to be as successful as possible. So we offer training, workshops, and post-implementation support. Any upgrades you need to do, any help you need, we're there. All right, and I'm going to pass it over to Scott.
Hey, everyone. So today we're going to talk about enterprise project management, specifically in Project Online. We only have a half an hour today, so we're just going to go through some of the broad strokes. We'll talk about sort of what an enterprise project management is. We'll talk about setting up business drivers and how the process works within Project Online. We won't have time to get into some of the analysis, so we'll probably have some follow-up sessions getting in through cost constraint analysis, resource constraint analysis, and so forth. So yeah, let's jump right in. So what is enterprise project portfolio management? So EPPM, it's a set of methods, processes, tools, and specific knowledge areas that manage all types of work within an organization. So anything you may seek to develop and complete in terms of work, projects, programs, all that type of stuff. So the key pieces to it is that it provides insight into what your organization is doing currently and new work that's coming across, and that's across the breadth of the organization. The key to that is it's to support critical planning functions and to allow for meaningful executive oversight into the project. So it's really, it's not just project management manages the governance of a single project. This is to manage all of your work. Okay, so everything that's happening, managing the capacity of your organization and the utilization of your resources, ensuring the projects and stuff you have and the work that you're doing is aligned with your corporate and strategic objectives and business drivers. So that's kind of the key thing there. So Okay, so why Project Online for EPPM? So it's designed to drive alignment to your corporate objectives, and that's through the use of aligning and assigning value to projects against the specific business drivers that you have established or that you can establish for your organization. Drives consistency in the business data capture and other information as well, so it allows you to standardize a lot of the key information that you need and kind of level the playing field across your organization so that when you're talking about, new projects and management stuff, you're all speaking the same language. So even though different departments and different divisions may have, a different, nature to the work that they do, when it comes to projects and work management, a lot of that is all aligned across your organization. Project Online allows you to analyze projects based on strategic alignment and cost. You can do what-if scenario planning, so you can, change different impacts on different business drivers. You can adjust the budgets, and it will, pretty much tell you what is the most meaningful mix of projects that you can do at a given time to drive the most strategic value out of that portfolio. The other key thing is that it transitions data from the intake process through portfolio analysis and selection into execution and delivery. So pretty much what that allows you to do is paint a picture of a project or a program from its inception all the way through to after it's been implemented. That information allows you to kind of capture a lot of that data and a lot of the baselining and planning information all the way through execution so that you can do appropriate, post-implementation benefits realization on your projects to ensure that, what you originally thought you were going to deliver, did we really deliver that at the end? And what was the variance there? And so that will help you in the future for, better portfolio management, better planning. One of the ongoing things is the balancing and optimizing of the portfolio of new projects within flight projects. So once you initially do your planning, but throughout the year, you should periodically balance and optimize your portfolio. So things change, markets change, maybe a company's strategic direction changes, maybe there's a merger or acquisitions, anything like that, that you want to keep that information current. So you're always going to be balancing and optimizing the portfolio as you move along in time. And then the other key piece is that it provides cross-divisional, enterprise-wide view of resource impacts across projects. So it makes sure that you're utilizing your workforce as efficiently, as effectively as possible. Okay. All right, so the process within EPPM and Project Online, let's chart here. We have sort of the number of projects. So initially, you do your strategic alignment analysis. So this is really blue sky planning. So get in as many projects, programs, enhancements, different types of work into the system. You align them to your strategic objectives, and that's you're aligning that to your corporate direction. So once that happens, then the next process is to go through and say, well, in a perfect world, we'd have all the money available to us to do all those projects, but most of the time we don't. So we're constrained by cost. So the second step in the analysis is a cost constraint analysis. So it goes, and the tool will help you based on the money available, come up with the portfolio of projects that give you the best mix of projects that give you the most strategic value. After that, you then move into resource constraint analysis. So we've been constrained by cost. Now, what can our workforce, what can our labor force do for us? What capacity do they have based on their in-flight projects to take on this new work, and what can they deliver? So then once you go through the resource constraint analysis, there's different scenarios you can play around with where it will tell you, if you move if we move this project out by 6 months, it will allow us to complete this other smaller project that increases our overall strategic value. And it shows you different ways in which you can augment and enhance your workforce to deliver more projects. And then at the end, you get the projects that are selected for execution and delivery, and you can go through and commit that portfolio portfolio, and those projects move into the execution and delivery phase. Okay. So what is a business driver? So a business driver is a fundamental goal that your organization is working towards. So it needs to be, business drivers should be a positive thing for the organization. So it should be something, you're trying to achieve. Okay. Some examples would be to improve customer satisfaction, expand market share, reduce your IT operating costs. So as I said, yeah, they need to be benefits for the organization, and you define the business drivers within Project Online. And you can keep those. You can have ones that are available for the entire enterprise. You can also have ones that are specific to individual departments so that they can align their projects a little more specifically along the lines of, some departmentals, due to the difference in the nature of their business, may have different departmental objectives, and that allows you to plan for those as well. Okay. So within each business driver within the system, you have a 5-level sort of Likert scale of different impacts. So what these are, your impact statements, they need to be measurable. So for example, if I was saying, we wanted to have increased market share, for each of the different levels, we should have something that's measurable. So if you want, 10% increase in market share for a low project up to, 50% market share at the extreme level. So you need to, have those defined, and then that helps you to align those projects to those business drivers based on their impact. Okay. All right, so then after you've defined the business drivers, when you're doing the portfolio analysis, you need to prioritize the drivers. So what this allows you to do is you go through and you do a pairwise comparison of each of the business drivers that you have. And as you can see on the right side in the diagram, we go through and we just do, it's a pairwise comparison of whether one business driver is more important or less important than another. So what this allows is that you can have different types of portfolios. You could have, maybe we want one that's very aggressive to get market share. Maybe we want one that's risk averse, or maybe we want one that's, that's a lean based, portfolio management prioritization. So you can have multiple prioritizations, and you can run different portfolios through with different flavors of those prioritizations. And as well within this, you can also define it manually. So if you already have defined business drivers and you have weightings that you're using to align your projects, you can put that information directly into the system. So you don't have to do the pairwise. You can just put in a weighting for each of them. Okay. Okay, next. Okay, so I'm going to do just a brief demo of how this looks within the tool. And this will be just, how the drivers are set up and how the prioritization works. And just going to share my screen. Okay, so just from the Project Web App home screen, the section we're actually looking for, or we're going to be looking at today, is down here in the strategy section. Okay, so this here is where the portfolio analysis and project selection process happens. So initially we're going to, we'll pop in here, we have the driver library. So we'll just click on that. This is going to give us a list of the various drivers that are available that are configured in the tool. So I'm going to use just an example here. So expand into new markets and segments. So we'll just open this up. So as you can see here, we just normally define a name. We'll put a description in as well that gives a better description of exactly what this business driver is for. If the department's field here is blank, it's an enterprise-wide business driver or corporate business driver, so it'll be available to everyone. We can define departments within here and select a department, so we could have one that would be specifically for IT or sales and marketing, or whatever departments you have have within your organization. So when it's initially created, it'll be active, but as things change, businesses change, market conditions and everything change. You may want to, bring in new drivers or inactivate old drivers. So you can inactivate these. You don't delete them. It's just by inactivating them, you can keep previous portfolio analysis available there for review and reference. So we just inactivate those. The bottom section here is the impact statement. So as you can see here, here's where we have the from none up to extreme, and we define specifically in here what this means. Okay, and then there's a calculation that is used in the background that my Project Online calculates that will then put this weighting against each of the individual projects. Okay. So that's how you define a business driver initially. And I'm going to actually just go in and show you how these are now matched within projects. I'll just move over here to the project screen. And I've created a few projects here. So as the individual projects are coming in, or project proposals, you can go in and you can have either, whoever the requester is, fill out that information, or you can change the workflow, or maybe some of the strategic impact information is filled out by maybe by a PMO or a PMO analyst or a risk analyst. There's a lot of different options that can be configured in the tool for how you want to do this. So when I go into a project here, I'm going to see I have this strategic impact page. We won't get into any of the other pages here just because the amount of time we have. But in the strategic impact page, I'll go in and edit it, and it's giving you radio buttons next to each of the business drivers that are available here. So you can go in and just, you can set these here, okay? And then that's what's giving you the strategic impact for this particular project proposal against the corporate business objectives. Okay, so once that's saved, that's going to be used within the analysis. So let's close out of here. Change anything. Okay, so after that's done, that gives sort of the weighting to the project. So I'm going to go back over to our driver prioritization. And this is where we do the prioritization. So we've got pretty much the demand profile created. So we have a lot of projects that are in here. We filled out the strategic impact. Now what we want to do is we want to start going in and figuring out, how do the drivers relate to each other within the portfolio analysis. So I'll just go through and actually show quickly how to create a new one. Just say this is test prioritization, and we'll just make this for everyone. So we'll go through and we'll put all of the current drivers in, and then we move over here to the prioritization of the drivers. Okay, so this is the pairwise. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, just due to the lack of timing that we have today. But pretty much what I'm going to do is initially the first one on the list is expanded into new markets and segments. So I can select right now what I'm doing is comparing them to each of these drivers here on the right-hand side. So if you go through here, you have 7 ratings that you can go through, from extremely more important than to extremely less important than. So it allows you to break down, in pretty good granularity what the relationship is between each of these. And you just go through and, update these. And so you keep working through, and as I finish them, it whittles it down until you have all of them compared to each other. So I'm going to go into a prioritization I've already done, just so I can show you how that looks. So after the pairwise, so after you've done the comparison, it's going to calculate what the most important to the least important business driver is within your portfolio analysis. So we have these, and we can see right now, just based off of the pairwise comparison that I did previously, that expanded in new markets has 30% of the priority. And the Project Online calculates this, so this is normalized so that this adds up to 100%. Okay. So after you've completed that, what you can do is, you can see here at the bottom, there's something called consistency ratio. So what the consistency ratio does is it goes through and it analyzes your comparison of each of the business drivers just to make sure there isn't any contradictions. Okay, so it goes through and does a calculation on what's the consistency here. So we're at 84.2%, which is pretty good. So anytime you're up here in the green section, then you know that there's not any contradictions and you're not going to get bad data coming out of that. Okay, so that's how
Hey,
those
Scott.
are set up. Yep.
I have a quick question. Is there
Yep.
a certain number of business drivers you should have, a recommendation of how many?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So Project Online in a single portfolio analysis will allow you to use up to 15 business drivers. But normally kind of what the sweet spot is, from just experience, would be kind of 8 to 10. No less than 8 or no less than 7 or 8. No more than 10. Once you get out into like 15, you'll find there's not a lot of differentiation between the different drivers when you do a prioritization. So it doesn't really give you that, extra, detail or extra data that you need to make proper decisions. And if you get too little, it's the same issue as well. You're either going to get huge disparities in the priority, or you're going to have the priorities be pretty much the same. So, and it just becomes unmanageable kind of the more you have in there. So between 8 to 10 is kind of what we recommend. Okay. All right.
Thanks.
So then I'll just show you. We're not going to have time to go through the full portfolio analysis, but I'm going to pop over here to the portfolio analyses. And yeah, from here, this is where we go through, we create a new portfolio and can go through the full analysis. I did create one here, so I'm just going to go in and just briefly show you this, and then I'll kind of open up the floor to questions. So we're creating a new portfolio. We need to give it a name. We should give it a description that demonstrates what it is. So if you have executives going in and reviewing them, or if you're trying to present them, people understand what they're looking at. Again, the portfolio analysis can be done specific for a department. So that here is where we pick the type of prioritization. So we can go in and we have 3 prioritizations. I can pick one, and this is the one that I just had previously created. What you can also do is you have the ability to prioritize projects using custom fields. So if you already have like a ranking or project priority system or something that you have set up with internally that you want to continue to use, we can plug that information into the system, and that can be used without having to use the business drivers. Okay, prioritization, so we can select the projects here. I have 5 in here. The maximum is 800. That's going to be pretty unwieldy to take a look at, but there's not really any, besides the 800 limitation. But you'll see for a single analysis, if you get above 200, it's going to start to, it's a lot of information to crunch, so it'll take a while to process stuff. So, kind of keep it under 200 projects within it at a time. And you can also break them up into chunks, and there's different ways to do that, and do them in batches and stuff, and then coalesce that into a portfolio at the end. Okay, so we need to select kind of what our primary cost constraint is. So this is the field that we're going to use to calculate the cost for the project. So you can do a lot of stuff on this. If you're calculating return on investment or NPV or anything like that, you can use that as well. Okay, so it's going to go in and pull pretty much any number field or any cost field that you have where it's been configured in the system. We're analyzing resources as well, so we can go and we can select what the planning horizon is. Depending on the granularity, if you do the granularity in quarters, you can do 6 years worth of, or it's pretty much it's 60 periods. Okay, so you can go out 60 months, or you can do 60 quarters as well. The resource role, okay, so this is what we use to kind of match resources across the enterprise. So we will have roles, and this kind of defines what they're doing. So you can compare role-based planning to your actual workforce and assist with the with your resource planning. And we'll go through a couple other things here, and I'll just go over here to the prioritized projects. Okay, so this is kind of where we'll kind of end up here. So this is pulling in all the projects that I added into the portfolio, and you can see it's pulled in the information for each of these projects and their impact statements on each of the business drivers that we have within the portfolio. So a lot of times somebody may, their idea of what's important may differ from somebody else or from different departments. You have the ability to go in and say, okay, I don't think, this project is going to have a strong impact on expanding into new markets. So as a portfolio analyst, I can go in within the portfolio and just say, no, I think this is probably just a moderate. Okay, so it allows you to go through and update that here, but that's specifically just within the portfolio. It doesn't go back and change the priority within the tool. It just allows you to do what if scenarios within here. Okay, so once that's done and you have all the information, you have all the settings in here for the impact statements as you would like, click next onto the review priorities, and this is going to do the calculation for you. Okay, so I can see I have these 5 projects in the portfolio. My project number 2 has the most strategic value. Okay, so this is, you've built the demand profile. We have that in here. We have the prioritization ready to go. And then from here, we can then move on and do analyze costs and the analyze resource constraints and, get the portfolio ready. So you can say, here's the best mix of projects we can do for this amount of budget. And this is the best projects that we can do based off of that budget and based off of what our organization can bear for, continuing to deliver our in-flight projects, as well as bring as onboard these new projects that are coming in. And we'll go through, in a later session and a follow-up session and do cost analysis and resource constraint analysis. But that's kind of it for me. I'm sorry, I know I spoke pretty fast. I was trying to get a lot of stuff in, and we're getting pretty close to the end. But did anyone have any questions?
Scott, I put some in the chat, just some things.
Okay. Yep. Okay, so yeah, what advantages come? Okay, so so the PMI has found that highly mature organizations that have implemented EPPM, 94% of them have some tangible, measurable improvement in both the value of the projects they deliver and their ability, their in the terms of less project failures, so they have much more success within those. It really does allow, the key thing with EPPM is that it makes sure that you understand, all the projects that are coming in, how they relate to each other, the value they provide to the organization. Is it possible for them to deliver? We find a lot of times that without it, you end up with a lot of you either start off with really big projects that fail, they then break down into much smaller projects, and then you end up with all of these projects that you really don't, either don't fit together, and there's really just there's no impetus to why you're doing this work or these projects. Okay. And oh yeah, so being able to force projects and stuff into and out of a portfolio is functionality within the tool. So what this may mean is that sure, you have a bunch of projects with high strategic value, but maybe there's one with lower strategic value that you have to do because it's a regulatory project or it's a compliance project. So you have to do it. So you have the ability within the portfolio analysis, and when we get into the cost constraint and the resource constraint analysis, that we can force in projects. So maybe a project that's an executive directive, or you may have a regulatory or a compliance project, or it's a legislative project, something like that. So that's kind of the type of information that will that you would need to make sure that you truly represent your the portfolio projects. So it's just, if you have a low value project that you have to do, it will get pushed out because it's always trying to get the best strategic value based off of your constraints. So all right, so hope that helped. Would I recommend? I'd recommend. we have Project Online. I've implemented Project Online, in a company that had 6 people up to companies that have, 100, 200,000 employees. So it's really scalable. It's very easy to implement. We can have very simple configuration around it. It can have very complicated one. So it really is a tool that kind of works for, across industry. It's kind of, it's industry agnostic, and in terms of size of companies and that, it's a very capable tool.
To go along with that, Tony, Scott and I are also working on a portfolio management webinar and project for the web, which is Microsoft's newest offering.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more lightweight depending on what your needs are, but you can definitely evaluate either or are good.
Yeah.
Good options. So,
Yeah.
If there's no other questions, I just wanted to quickly say thank you guys for joining us today. I know it was like a marathon for Scott to get all that in the half hour that we had today. We're going to be doing a follow-up session, like Scott said, into the cost analysis and the resource analysis. And then we'll also be doing this same series, portfolio management and project for the web as well. So if you follow us on Eventbrite, that's where we post all of our events, and we also post them on our social media pages, and we also post the recordings from all of our webinars as well. So if you're looking for any resources that there's not an upcoming webinar for, feel free to browse our YouTube, our website, and if you don't see anything, please feel free to reach out to our team and ask. We're more than happy to put these on, and I also put a survey in the chat. If you could fill that out to let us know how the session was, that would be great.